And then lastly, the incredible RZA will be performing for us. He will be showcasing the film. He will just be interacting with us in Birmingham today. This is what we need. This is what we wanted. So thank you so much for tuning in. And I've been Amina Bradley, your host today. It's been an incredible day and so excited to see what's next.
Coming to the stage next, actually, we have the CEO of the Legacy Center of Excellence.
We brought a legend to this building. We have to have the legends introducing legends. You know what I mean? It was only around that, we paid you a bit of homage as well. So happy belated birthday from all of us and
The truth is, from the very beginning of the Legacy Center, the vision was, how do we uplift the community that we serve? Yeah. And you are the community that we serve. And we want you, when you leave here today, for you to have some knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that's going to help you take you forward in your life. That was the whole point of us doing music industry there. And that was the whole point of us starting Legacy Center of Excellence in the first place. That how do we bring life to our community? So thank you all for being here. Yeah? Now, we are going to have some legends here today. In fact, we have legends here today. We're about to have a sit down with the RZA from Wu-Tang Clan. And we also have here Fusion. Now, a lot of you, some of you, I don't think you understand the importance of this brother Fusion, right? Back in the day, see now, you can go on YouTube and you can type in UK rap, UK hip hop, and you can find it. You can type in rap and you can find it. When we was coming up, there was no YouTube, there was no UK rap you could find. The only UK rap you could find was vinyl, buying vinyls, buying CDs. And this brother, he was like the first journalist that I knew, and he used to create a hip hop chart, and he used to go around the country encouraging artists to actually engage in that. He interviewed Biggie when they came out, he interviewed Nas when he came out, he interviewed the Wu-Tang when they came out in the 90s, Fusion. He was the first to do it. Their first ever UK interviews, he did it. Then they started MTV-based UK, and he was a pioneer for that. Pioneer was Fusion. And that video you just saw, that video was one of the first UK hip-hop videos to be played on MTV, and it's because of Fusion. So everybody hang up Fusion. Now, I'm going to introduce a good friend of mine. His name is Born King. I'll see nowadays, you see skets go to the US, you see rappers from the UK go to the US, and they get more love, they get a lot of love, more than what the rappers back in the day used to get. But from the early days, when I was in the music game, Born King reached out to me and wanted to support what we were doing. And we've been on that journey ever since. And he's a key reason why RZA's here today. So, when we talk about all of the legends, sometimes you have legends amongst you that you don't even realize were legends. And I want to really, really big up this brother for all the work he does, tying all of the dots, bringing all the dots together globally for hip-hop music.
Not the Self DVD. I feel the whole world's in a circle, therefore everything on it goes in a circle.
Look, peace. This is Born King Mathematics Lost, and we're here for Stolen from Africa. My man Conway.
Music that people can connect with, people can relate to, and music that's honest. I don't talk about stuff that I don't know because that's not worth anything.
That's with Born. My name is Born King.
So for those who are not really familiar with the 5% Nation. Definitely familiar with the music. If you listen to 90s hip hop, then you definitely got some of the connections. But for those who may not know exactly what the Nation of Gods and Earths are, could you just break that down simple and plain for the people that?
Simple and plain. It's about teaching self-esteem for yourself. You know what I mean? The knowledge of yourself, the origin of who you are. You know what I'm saying? That people on the planet Earth who are black, that we were fathers and mothers of civilization, kings and queens of Africa, and just going back to your roots and learning true history and culture about yourself and things of that nature, you know what I mean? Because without knowledge of self, you don't know, it's like a tree without no roots. You have no direction, you have no purpose, and you don't know who you are, so how can you even advance and go forward? So this is the core principle that is needed for the youth in order for them to build.
Well, we're talking about building with the youth, we definitely have to know the cultural center. It's a beautiful space, by the way. I didn't see it earlier.
Yeah, shout out to Cypher Jewels.
No doubt, no doubt. You're connected with the music, connected with the youth. Let's talk about one student in particular, Raz Fresco, and how you connected with him, gave him the knowledge, and how that really took off. Because there's some, some powerful things, man, that came afterwards, man. So let's build on that.
Yeah, peace to the God, Raz Fresco. You can check out his music. One of my artists that's based in Toronto, Canada, RAZFRESCO. And yeah, man, that's a young God. I met him, my son, oldest son, a true nation of law. And they basically run together and play together. And even before actually they even met, I was the bridge that made the connection. Because my son was listening to his music and he basically came to me and said, yo, Dad, this guy, he's like 14 years old. He's walking around with a high top, like Big Daddy Kane and African medallions. And this is back in those times, it was like a retro thing. It was like real cool for the youth to just kind of study a lot of the stuff that we grew up on and just emulate it. So when I met him, I was like, yo, who Big Daddy Kane is? This high top. And he knew. He was like, yeah, I studied the greats and this, that, and the third. And I told him, like, my son likes you. And this was my son's 16th year party. And I told him to come through. And he basically rocked the house for my son's 16th year party. And ever since then, they've been locked in.
Well, that's hard too, because with Raz, he's connected with like Pete Rock, and what are some like collaborations that Raz has done?
Hey man, he did the dope album with DJ Muggs. He went out to LA. He did joints with West Side Gun. He did joints with Pete Rock. Him and Pete Rock are working on an album. He did some real great things, man. The brother's been working. He's been getting busy, and yeah, we still building. We still building. He got an album out now that's about to drop called Why Self, and it's about his personal growth and development and how he's been growing in the knowledge as a young God. And he also won an award for being one of the young 5%ers in the music industry because, like I said, a lot of our golden era were all 5%ers, but what happened was a lot of that died out by design. A lot of the new music, you don't find no knowledge, no consciousness, nothing like that that's edifying you anymore because the music has been dumbed down and it's all by design. So for the young God to come up to be one of the first, they've given him an award just to also educate more younger people to start speaking more knowledge and more truth to power in their music instead of speaking more depth to the youth. We would have ciphers. A cipher is a class. Each brother would step in the cipher and have to show and prove. They would stand in a circle. We call it ciphers. The brothers talking like it's about hip hop and rapping. No, the original cipher is when the gods come and everybody got to step in the middle of the cipher, show and prove their lessons and the knowledge that they know. So some of the first ciphers or classes I witnessed, I see my young brother RZA. RZA was there. This is how we made our first connection because RZA was also in the cipher showing improvement just like us. Brothers was questioning him, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What lessons you dealing with? And he would be sitting there, going through the lessons, showing improvement as a young God and building. So seeing that from a young God perspective, a brother like the RZA at the time, he was still the RZA. This is 92, 93.
Right.
He was still young in his development, but people knew who he was, but he was still showing improvement, just like all of us amongst the gods.
So peace to the gods, man, for the foundations, man. So yeah, man, so what's up? You got any final words, man, before we don't be getting to the business?
Y'all ready for my brother the RZA? Yeah, y'all can make a little bit one more time. That, and y'all can make more noise than that. Y'all ready for my brother the RZA? All right, this is beautiful. Yeah, go check my brother right now. He should be here any minute. Just hold tight. And it's a pleasure building with y'all, man.
Thank you for RZA. On it, man.
Philosopher actor. His brainchild named after the classic film Shaolin and Wu-Tang was more than a music group. It was a culture.
Let's go for it. Oh, he got some joints in his bag. Okay.
Right, let's do the mathematics. How many of you here have heard streams of Wu-Tang song? If you have, put your hands up. You know, let me see, right, beautiful. How many of you actually own a vinyl, a CD in your bedroom? Internet can't take it away from you. How many of you have gone to a concert and been blown away? I want to go into this. Beautiful, okay. Yeah, I see that. How many of you, when you heard about the God-body mathematics, went and did the knowledge? All right. So that's what the conversation is going to be about, because the words and the numbers combine to transform reality. Many don't like to come and they're gone, but it didn't work out the mathematics. Just don't put the word with words. The words have not endured the 30 years that Wu-Tang have, and the legacy that's been cemented by this leader and the whole family from Wu-Tang. So we're going to explore this now.
Say that again.
Oh boy, I feel like I got 36 minutes and 36 chambers. We're going to roll now. Let's go into this. We've got to, man. Right. If you look behind us, we're going to go on this journey. Now, the reason why I felt it was so important to talk about the mathematics is because we're moved by energy. When I heard Public Enemy for the first time, I didn't know who Farrakhan was, but that's a prophet that he thinks I ought to listen to. So I did. When I heard KMD talk about peach fuzz and arm, leg, arm, head, I was looking at like, whoa, I don't understand. But I feel this. And Brand Nubian and all of these groups in native tongue were shaping a sound. And here in the UK, we felt a righteousness, a spirituality that we couldn't translate, but we could feel the energy. So can you just tell us, what is the mathematics in the basic terms? Because many here love you, love Wu, but don't necessarily have that in their foundation.
Well, he's 1, 2, mic check. Your mic sound better than mine, yo. Hold on,
Let me switch it out.
Hold me up, yo. Turn me up, son. You know what I mean? Looking like Ghostface in here. Turn my shit up, you know? No, so there's something called living mathematics, right? So living mathematics is actually a code or pattern of thinking that you can live by. It's taking a number and a word, picking a numerical value to a word. Like the first mathematic is knowledge. That's number 1, right? That's right. That's number 1. I won't explain all of them, but I'll say So you look at the word knowledge, you get, of course, Rakim broke it down, you have to know the ledge. If you don't know the ledge, you fall off the edge.
Word.
Right?
Yeah, we're doing knowledge today. You can clap for that. Yeah.
Also, a little more. So knowledge is not just a word, it's an actual physical action. If you walk into the room, the first thing you should do is the knowledge. You should look, listen, observe, and respect. Alright? If you look, listen, observe, and respect, then you will most likely know what the fuck is going on.
Facts.
If you don't look, listen, and observe, and respect, because some people look, but don't listen. They look and listen, but they didn't really observe.
If you say you listen, but you don't hear.
Yeah, or they didn't observe. Like Ghostface said in the song, MGM, he says, you study today's mathematics? I'm on the 19th degree, right? It's on the 19th degree of the 140. So I'm on the 19th degree. If a civilized person don't perform his duties, what shall be done? He asks him a question and goes to, pardon me, God, that nigga got it done.
Word.
So it's like, you can't be all philosophical and spiritual in a room with aggression, and there's danger. So you have to have what? Observation, and then respect, and yo, this ain't the place for that. If they say truth out of season, may not bear fruit. So knowledge is an action. Then after you do the knowledge, then you will go to wisdom. Wisdom, you got that word too or no? Okay, I'll just go wisdom. I won't take it all the way through. Wisdom is the manifestation of knowledge. Means the man's speaking the action of his knowledge. It's the expression, it's the experience. So it means simply to speak. Knowledge is to know, wisdom is to speak. Don't speak before you know, bro. Most people do that, they speak before. Anyway, so those lessons, that thinking goes knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture and freedom, power and refinement, equality, God, build or destroy, born, cipher. Cipher, of course, being the zeros, everything comes from that. So, that pattern of thinking, that pattern of living, is, for my life, is worked every step of the way. And I think for anyone's life, if you did the knowledge to it, before you spoke, therefore you brought forth a clearer understanding. And once you understand it, you can do what? You can live it. You're free to live. And freedom is what? Freedom in culture. Culture is your way of life, but you have to have freedom in order to experience your culture. And once you free and you live it, and you have that way of life, you can manifest your power. But what is power if it's not refined? See, people got power. That's what we see a lot of tyrants. A lot of people with power, they don't have refinement. They got power. It says power and refinement. So refinement is like when that power becomes that laser beam focused, not that scattered electricity, just dropping whatever you want. And therefore, the next lesson is equality. And equality means to do what? To be and to deal equal with all. Yes. Yeah, I can keep going.
Right. Clap for that, family, because this is laying the foundation for this portion of the conversation. So let's take it back. So, growing up over here, we would hear about Queensbridge and the projects. We'd hear about what was going on in Compton. And I grew up in London. I was near Broadmoor Farm. I grew up in Tottenham. And then some people I know from Birmingham, Handsworth, and different areas. We have our own version of the projects. So can you take us to your knowledge, growing up from Brooklyn to coming to Staten, and what your world was like when you came into it?
Yeah, so Staten Island, Park Hill, Staten Island another project. I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn, so home of Mike Tyson, MOP. To be quite honest, way more dangerous than Park Hill was in my life. You know what I mean? Park Hill for me felt almost like an upgrade. You know what I mean? But yet, drugs, crime, violence all throughout our streets. In fact, Park Hill became known as Killer Hill. That's why the RZA have a song, Killer Hill 10304. That's the address on the zip code. But still, it was a lot of fun, a lot of love, bro. You know, they had these rec rooms where the little parties would happen and the DJ be spinning and you get down there and you grab the microphone, you take the fucking headphones and plug it into the mixer and you use the headphones for a microphone, you know what I mean? So a lot of good times came from that project. A lot of good time came from growing up in Park Hill. And so for me, I revere the place, you know what I mean? And it was a place where we ran wild. It's a place where we developed our style, our slang. Park Hill was with fly motherfuckers too. It was like, next to Park Hill, if you go that way, you get to Stapleton. And Stapleton was like those are like the real stick-up kids. You know what I mean? They was more like, it was kind of closer to Brownsville than Park Hill. Like Park Hill, the dude might walk up, like, see, I got these 50s on right now, right? You know what I mean? A Park Hill dude would walk up with a pair of Bally's, Gucci sneakers, but the dude in Stapleton, he might have on Pro-Keds or Timberlands, and this shit was more like that, you know what I mean? And it was always a conflict between the two neighborhoods.
Okay. Now, the name and the names you take on mean so much. So, you know, Rakim, Zig, Zag, Zig, Allah. The Zig, Zag, Zig was for you making a change in your life. There's a really powerful quote which you shared, which was, I saw two paths, and one led to death or prison, and one led to knowledge of self. So, for so many people, they despair when they grow up in areas there aren't great examples. What gave you the belief that you could emerge from the projects and create a global movement?
Well, I think any one of us, you know, who are in any type of oppressive situation or underprivileged situation, we can escape that. We can better ourselves out of that. I think the first thing is realizing what you are yourself. So you could be in that project where you got somebody on the top, people on both sides, and motherfucker underneath. Somebody can turn the lights out on the staircase, it's to the elevator, rock the lady on the way up. And you can become just like the people in that environment. Or you could be that flower that grew through the concrete. You know what I mean? You could be the lotus that grows on that mud. You know what I mean? And for myself and for my crew, we always felt special. And I mean by feeling special, not that we felt better than anybody else, we felt better for ourselves. You know what I mean? So some dudes get up, yo, and they don't shower or brush their teeth, yo. Straight up. Some dudes don't wash their hands before they eat. Straight up. Some people, you know, smoke and fall asleep with a blunt in their hand. You know what I mean? It's like all these characteristics that people may have is like, don't mean you gotta have that characteristics. Now I gotta thank my mother. Because my mother, if you came to my mother's, you walk into our apartment, you don't think you were in Park Hill. She kept it pristine. She had that dignity. So that's a word I think that we could share. Dignity is so important, you know. You know, it's like you have to realize your self-worth. And your self-worth is invaluable. Everything in this world Most niggas we see, there's more than one, bro. There's only one of you. So what's the value of that?
And I love that because so many of us have those families where regardless of where you are, when you open that door and you go into that home, it's the highest standard. Because you can control your own environment. You're only able to control everything that goes outside of that door, but inside, that's your domain, that's your kingdom. So,
Yes.
Right, so talk about visions, and I really want to kind of angle this to talk about the UK as well, because the genesis of Wu-Tang, to my understanding, to my ear, was the fusion of Kung Fu that you spoke about, the hero, the villain, the discipline, the requirements to evolve through the chambers, the 5% nation, and what you taught us, what we heard about as the knowledge, the park jams. Your brother, your cousin RZA, told me a story about going back and forth on the trains and falling asleep on the trains and just traveling back and forth just to stay warm. Like, that was the life. But he also, there was a story that at age 8, you were 8, he was 11, and you took the train, ferry, the next train, the next bus to go to the Bronx to find those early park jams. I mean, that for most young people was terrifying. They can't even leave the block. You left the borough to go and find hip hop.
Well, I would say for any young person, right, there's two ways to travel. One, of course, is to physically leave. To go, you know, if you live in this block or that block, walk 10 more blocks, you know. Now Rogers, in his book, he said the same thing. He said that he was the type of guy that just walked all the way somewhere else for experience. They say a traveling man gets his mind to expand. But then if you can't travel, then travel through your imagination. So if you look at some of these things here, this is here, we're traveling up to the Bronx to hear somebody play some music and fall in love with hip hop. But when I'm watching this movie right here, I mentally travel to China. So in China, at the time of this story is taking place, it's not too good for what's happening for the black man in America. But there's still oppression in this story, 36 Chambers, and this young man had to better himself to go back and fight against that oppression.
This is Deuces, right?
This is 42nd Street.
Right.
So in one capacity, what is that? Those are movie theaters, but in another capacity, those are my classrooms. You see what I mean? So 64 squares on a chessboard, right? 64 squares, there's 8 squares, 64 squares lined up in 8 columns. We sit and meditate and we calculate life's problems. But even if you look at 64 itself as a mathematical number, it's the amount of cells that happen before the first cell of life even exists. Right? And all the variations what can happen depends on the moves you're going to make. Right? Depends on, even on the cell of an embryo, it's going to depend on what the mother takes, what she spoke, the music she hears around her, what the father is saying, her love, her pain. So, all these things, and then you come back to here, when you see a square, you see a circle, you see 8 points of the sun, you see 8 of them are dark, 8 of them are light. So it's 16 shades. You see the sun, now you see the moon, and you see the star, and then you see that 7. So the 7 is known to represent God at the end of the day. So when the brother designed that, and I never met the brother, but when I read about it, it's like, yo, everything is going to be on the square and the circle, right? Because a square and a square and a circle turn inside out. Gee, that's all it is, right? That's how you get your. But the 7 in the center is, they say, God. And you should strive to have God in the center of you. Beautiful. It's a young universe. And as you go through all these right here, to me they all have, every one of these have a significantly mathematical significance to my journey.
And to bounce off what you were saying, I put park jams because when I talked to Cool Herc, there was no vinyl hip hop. We were playing the breaks, we were playing the slow jams, and at the end of the hip hop party, someone wanted to dance with somebody because there was love in the culture. So it wasn't just b-boying, you also b-boying looking for girls, looking for love. That can be lost sometimes in this culture, man, so that's a very important part of it as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Love is everything in all reality. What happened is we end up loving the music more than loving ourselves. Motherfuckers start shooting at each other and shit. And we overcame that though. Yeah. The culture overcame that, but there was a point, I said this for the Birmingham, UK family, there was a point that being hip hop was dangerous. Woo! You know what I mean? You had on a pair of fresh sneakers, you better make sure that your size don't have nobody else's size. It was like, let me get that.
And we heard the stories about the tunnel as well, with the chain snatching, this crew, that crew getting stomped, especially if a song came on like Black Rock Whoa, or something would just literally change the frequency in that venue. The music was powerful.
That was the good old days. That was like after the craziness, you know? Okay. So, I mean, to us, that was like the watered down version because in the old days, we're talking about just walking out to the corner and having the same thread, or going to that block party, hearing that music. Most of the block parties would have ended with after Cool Herc era and the goodness of it, as it started spreading, a lot of those block parties ended with a gunshot. You know what I mean? So, but blessings that, I will say this, the music has always been a magnetism and a motivating force. And a lot of the music that we were sampling were music of love and power and positivity. And eventually it conquered all that sucker shit that everybody was into.
I'm glad you said that. I mean, as much as Dilla created the lo-fi genre, Shaolin Soul, you know, bringing those dramatic stylistics, these classic Dusty Crate samples, bring them to life over your drum productions, and the lyricism are parallel. So please round applause for that. I love it. Sound architect. I don't usually produce that, usually what I see in music in my life. So tell me about this moment, because we see the photographs. I was working in press, we would print these, put them in magazines and newspapers. But what was this day for you?
It was a tough day, yeah. Trying to get us to get down to the salt mines. This is Staten Island, and a place is called New Brighton. You know what's so crazy? There was a shootout right after the photo, bro. Because this neighborhood is not our neighborhood. We had beef in that neighborhood, bro. So it's like you had to break your gun to do a photo shoot back then, yo.
But you must have loved the spot so much, you risked it.
Yeah, but also, bro, that's the beauty. Like I said, eventually, everybody, like, since we represented Staten Island, eventually every project in Staten Island came and stood behind it. So that's the importance of making something that is important, right? So, you know, like, I don't know if this is a fact, but there's a big, like, soccer rivalry in the culture here, right?
Sure, 100.
Okay, but if any team from the UK makes it to go play somebody else, do we all go support that team? Okay, I hope so, you know what I mean? Because that's what happened to us. It was like, eventually the entire Staten Island stood behind Wu-Tang, even though somebody didn't like RZA, or somebody didn't like Ghost, or Dirty was from Brooklyn. It was like, yo, this movement made every project come together and stand behind us. So that's what I thought of when you brought that picture up.
That's powers, thank you. What did it take? We talk about understanding, you know, to manifest this vision of Wu-Tang. You know, you had this, which is, I believe, the original logo, and I love the fact that Ronald Maurice Bean creates the logo, but his name is also mathematics. So the maths is in your logo. So what does it take? Because all of us have a vision and a dream, but you can't always convince 1, 2, 3, let alone 9 brothers unified.
Well, I think, like, within this crowd, there's going to be somebody that's going to hear it. Like, hear it they call Noah, right? I'm gonna go to the Bible with us. So Noah in the Bible was the man that told everybody it's gonna rain in the desert, right? And nobody gonna believe that, right? He's like, yo, it's gonna rain 40 days, 40 nights, we gotta build a boat. And they're like, impossible. But yet there's always one amongst you who is the best knower. Not just N-O-A-H, but K-N-O-W-E-R. And at the time, I was blessed with that vision. So this is not the original logo. Okay. This is a third or fourth rendition. Okay? But this is where he had to end up with when I was trying to get him to give me something that was dangerous. And he came back with this, and I was like, you know what I mean?
Go too far.
Yeah. But what I did like, so on the original logo, the Wu-Tang was spelled out.
Okay.
And this shape W was the first W, but it was a U, a T, a A, N, G, they're all
like a whole font.
Yeah. And I told him, nah, just let me see it now with the W. But I told him before about some, like, chopping heads off and all that shit. So he came literal. But then when I saw this, I told him I had a Bible in my house. So if you look at it, this becomes the first real logo.
Wow.
And what happened is, we took the Bible in my house, right? And I was like, some people want to come here, they're gonna need the book. Right. So Wu-Tang should offer you the book. But some people are gonna come here, they're gonna need the sword. So to protect your neck, you're protecting your neck from the wisdom and the sword, both. Now the funny thing about this, you see how this is blocked out in the middle?
Yeah.
Because originally, it said Tommy Boy. Because I was gonna give this to Tommy Boy.
Right.
But the day I went to go make my business cards, I just scraped that Tommy Boy shit off, you know what I mean? And I made my own.
But you knew, in your spirit, you knew this was not but that would move.
Plus, they didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
So here's the punchline. This album cover is only a blown up copy of my business card.
Crazy.
Okay? And I was like, yo, I'm gonna use my business card. So this was really a business card for the Wu-Tang production. And then let's just blow it up, blow it up, blow it up. And we're gonna make it become the cover of our first single.
Word. Clap for that, family.
I share that with you, brother. I share that because somebody had to see it. Yeah, I saw it. I was like, wait a minute. I could see what this could be. And eventually, it evolved to what it is.
Because I respect your time, your presence, and your offering. I know you need to leave at a certain time. Do you need to leave at 9:30, or do we have a little extension to continue the storytelling? Because I'm super conscious of that.
What time is it now? We'll go 9:45.
Love. Thank you. I appreciate that. Greatly. So, we're going to talk about expansion because we wouldn't know about Wu-Tang unless that message traveled. I was a record shop lover. I would go there and that's how we got the transmissions. This is an original copy of Protect Your Neck. One of the rare copies in the UK, because these were imports, they cost like £10. In today's money, that's like £30 for one song. But that song changed my whole mindset. So can we talk a bit about expansion? Because when we look at 36 Chambers as an album, it's not one moment. It's an explosion, like a star exploding. Because I spoke to Carlos Bess, sound engineer, obviously, yeah, you clap if you know. Ricardo said that when you would come to the studio, because you didn't have no laptop business going on, whatever you made was real to real in the studio with a big desk. And he said, at the session, you would ask for a bounce of the songs, and he would just drop you a quick bounce. He goes, I had no idea he was going to press these up. And he was so annoying. He's like, I want to mix these down right. But with Shaheen's project, Meth's project, and all the other projects, they were done all at the same time, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, what we would do, so automation wasn't that good back then, right? Like we would just automate. So when I would tell Carlos, like, yo, I want to bounce it down, but then I would stand on the board and hit buttons. Drop here, drop here, drop this, drop this. So because the ASR 10 had the power to turn tracks on and off, and so did the SP1200. So I was familiar with turning tracks on and off. So we listen to Protected Neck, you hear something come in, something go off, something comes in, something goes off.
Like punching.
Yeah. And so when I hit it how I liked it, that's it. Now, he was right about mixing, like far as like an engineer would, supposed to go and take a whole day to mix some shit. Now, I wanted, to be honest, and Carlos knew this, because Carlos became our engineer and worked for us for like 10 years after we had success. But I wanted to sound like a demo. Okay. I always felt that hip hop sound better when I heard the first demo. Like you heard Lottie Dottie?
Yeah.
If you hear the demo of Lottie Dottie, it sounds to me 10 times better than the version that came out on the record.
They didn't overthink it, right? It was a pure flow.
Yeah, before it was just real. And so that's what I always wanted in my music. And I didn't realize till later that I was sacrificing what some people would say the sonic quality. But to me, it was like, if you think about an old record from the 40s and 50s, they got 2 tracks, 4 tracks at best. 1 take, that's the song. And so music is not just the polishing, it's just the capturing of that energy, and that's what I was striving to do especially for Protected Neck, especially for the first 36 chamber album.
I love that. It's just that spontaneity, being in the moment in the field. There's a really great story of Badu just saying that you were in another studio when you popped in to see her, his tongue agent on the other side, just did a live mix and said you're good to go. So it's, bomb. All right, beautiful. So we're gonna move on, because when we talk about worldwide influence, I had to laugh because a tattoo is for life. And there are people all over the world who've decided they are Wu-Tang literally forever. So these are some people who've just gone all the way. I'm sure you've met most of them at your concerts, yeah? There's even people who've got RZA tattoos.
Yeah, it's a blessing, bro. This is like for me, it's just like, thank you. I'm grateful. I got so much gratitude to people who listen to the music, absorbed it. It affected them in a way that they want to remember it, you know what I mean, and remember us. And when I see stuff like this, all I do is say thank you. All praises due to Allah. You know what I mean? I'm grateful. That's it, bro. Yeah, for real.
So I want to show you something, because you've left an indelible impression, not just in tattoos, not just in hearts and minds, but just across the world. That energy is gonna outlive all of us. It's gonna be one of those classic things. Now, my tech guy, this is that moment where we shine, yeah? There's a video, I wanna run this, and if it runs smoothly, we're blessed. Because you've never seen this before. Right? All right. Yeah, that's it. That's the one if you're gonna run it.
Holocaust from the land of the lost. Behold the pale horse, or course. Follow me, Wu-Tang gotta be the best things to start to Clark Wallaby.
We're on the set for the new Wu-Tang video. It's blazing hot. We're trying to catch some shade. We're here right now with Steve Rifkin, the man behind Loud Records. How you doing, man?
I'm doing
great, but it is hot. And that's incredible.
No doubt. I mean, you must feel real proud right now because obviously Wu-Tang came from doing Protect Your Neck, and that was a lo-fi, low-budget video, right through to now with Protect Your Neck, the jump off, and this is just like as big as it gets, pretty much.
That, and it's also a family reunion, you know, because out of all the solo records, with Meth doing his thing, Ghost doing his thing, Ray doing his thing, Tech doing his thing, you know, and then coming back after 3 years later, it's literally like a family reunion. What we did is our faith in our belief in RZA is, you know, we're shooting a video without the album fully being done yet. Without really, he says, this is what I want, you know, and because we trust him so much, we said, let's go.
This video is a ghetto Flintstones. It's 100 BC, and basically it's just a big performance piece like 100 years ago. It's kind of a cross between Tim Burton, Flintstones, Wu-Tang, Kung Fu, crazy stuff. Working with Wu-Tang Clan is quite an experience. It's not like working with other people because it's like 9 of them, and it's very hard to get them together, and like they're not quite communicating all the time. So you as a director get kind of sort of caught, you know. It's like all of a sudden you do one shot and they go, well, why didn't we do this? Because you didn't mention it before, and then and then 2 people may have different ideas, and I'm the one that's sort of in the middle of it. But it's fun because I like that sort of chaos. You know, I don't know what they were smoking.
Yes. You have no idea how many nights you've been through. I've been sitting on that piece of content for 26 years. I've never showed it to anyone. This was the best time and the right time. Yeah, man. What does it bring back for you seeing that clip?
Well, it was hot like a motherfucker that day. We all had on furs.
I was gonna say it was 102 degrees in the valley in LA, and you're rocking furs, bro.
Yeah, we didn't know it was gonna be that hot, you know.
Right, if you go to raise in regards to that is, I call it the chaos theory. How many of you out here have a friend or you are that person with the craziest, dopest ideas, but you just can't quite get yourself organized? Or you know someone who's like that, yeah? Boom, bam. And how many of you have someone who's just like, they've got all the talent, but they're not willing to take the risks? They're kind of playing it too careful, too straight. In 2 occasions, Steve Rifkin says, we're making this multi-million-pound video, risking it all, and you haven't even turned the album in yet, but he believes in you. And then the director is being directed by you. You can see the panic in his eyes. He's like, they say this and they say that. He's trying to keep cool, it's 102 degrees, and he's trying to listen to 8 guys explain a vision. So how do you manage to convince people that I know it's that creative spark that changes the world, but you need to kindle and manage that? And I get a sense having like 11 siblings gives you the DNA to navigate all terrains.
Yeah, it goes back to what we said earlier, that somebody gotta be the best knower. Like somebody gotta be that one. A spear only has one point at the end of it. It has a long stick, a lot of force behind it, but you gotta have that point at the end in order to pierce. And so, at many times throughout our career, I'm that spear. And I'm comfortable, I'm very comfortable with that position.
So looking at what we call Brotherhood, actually before we dive into Brotherhood, I just want to know a bit more about mentoring, because being a knower and being a master is so important, but having a teacher in spirit is also crucial. So you have relationships with people like Tarantino, Ridley Scott, even talking to Quincy Jones. So can you tell me a bit about that relationship where you were prepared to go to Tarantino and say, listen, I am not a master of cinema, I'm willing to be your student? Because like many people, the ego won't allow for that.
Well, I think that you gotta always become a student in life, first of all. You'll never stop being a student, but there's always something more to learn and something more to better yourself. But you feel like 1, 2, turn it up a little bit, because my voice is a little dry from all those concerts. You get a little more light. But you also gotta have, humility. Like be humble enough to know that, a lot of artists, when you become like number 1, you think you're the greatest shit in the world, you get a God complex. But you don't realize that there's so many other greats around you that's creating other things. And I was able to recognize that.
and be able to turn to somebody, a peer, Quincy Jones, Quentin Tarantino, and be like, you know what? I want to learn from you. I want to learn from you. And I'll say, going back to Brotherhood, most things that especially in those days that I did was for my brothers. You know what I mean? Yeah, I told Steve I need $1 million to make this video. Why? Because I want these dudes to look the best. I want them to be the best they can be. You know what I mean? And I want them to have the platform to do that. We gave him a video, like you said, Protect Your Neck. That was out of our own pocket. You know what I mean? And it took 2 weeks to shoot that Protect Your Neck video. Not because we had a 2-week budget, because we got to come back tomorrow. We got to still a shot here, still a shot here, still a shot here. And even at that time, that was so that every brother could have a moment. You notice in the Protect Your Neck video, you guard, whole scene is on video camera. Because he had parole or some shit, or probation, some shit, he couldn't make it to the video shoot. So we had to get the video, like, my man got a video camera. I was like, you know what, bring that shit. Yo, let's all go meet back at the same place we did that photo in that same neighborhood. But you just go there and shoot his verse. And we did. So when you think about, to answer your question in 2 ways, you're talking about being a student at all times. I think everybody should take heed to that because it's important. Like, if you want to know something, go to another master. But the secret of that also, if you first master yourself and master one craft, you could then enter any other field with a master and rise quickly in that field because you understand that mastery itself is a process. You understand? And then the second thing, you go back to Brotherhood, of course you could do something by yourself. I tell my Wu brothers that, look, by myself, you know, I got some gold albums. You know, Bobby Digital gold albums, Grave Digger gold. But with the Wu, I'm multi-platinum, bro. You know what I mean? So that's the strength of each one of us multiplying. You know, Raekwon, he has some good albums out there. But if you want a platinum album, it's with his Wu brothers. You see what I'm saying? So you gotta understand that principle as well. Know that what element go together to make a better element. Love, let me use love for a moment. I like to share this with y'all. Try to say anything that's important. So a lot of things are like elements. People are like elements. You know, the emotions are like elements. My brother Power, his name was Power. He was an element. When he put his power beside my strength, or his power beside my intelligence, we made movements. Love is similar. I say love is almost could be compared to the element of oxygen. If you put love with lust, or love with jealousy, that's like putting oxygen with carbon. You get a carbon monoxide. But if you put love with trust, love with joy, that's like putting oxygen with the hydrogen. Now you got water, you got life. Take that element idea, take that chemical idea. And our lesson teaches this. It says that man is a mathematical biochemical equation, which I said in my lyric. The pre-existence of the mathematical biochemical equation is the manifestation of rock, plant, air, fire, and water, which are in a basic formation, just solid, liquid, and gases that form the land masses, and the space catalyst and all matter that exists in this third dimension. And the point I'm making by saying that is recognize that you are a biochemical equation. That's not just physically, that's mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And since this is industry day,
is economically. How do you put yourself with the right person, the right element that's going to multiply you to some substance that's going to be beneficial versus a substance that's going to be poisonous? And that's going back to brotherhood, that's going back to the chaos, everything we're talking about, just trying to map it up, really, because that's the essential science that must be applied for success.
One of the greatest things about you, in my humble opinion, is your knowledge. You read, you study, you absorb, but you apply it so brilliantly and consistently. And I put together a visual for you just for an appreciation for what you've done. I don't know if you've ever looked. I'll be digital. I don't think you've ever looked at the world. You're like a great-great-grandfather of a whole movement. I don't think there's been a single person in the history of recorded music who has begat so many bands, so many individual artists, so many individual economic platforms, and each one has a dynasty underneath it. Even to the great niggas that predates Wu-Tang. This is a universal example of excellence delivered in a lifetime. We applaud you for it. Gave us the extra time. We're so grateful. We wish you the best on the farewell tour. One of the most important things that was a meditation was you're coming out at a time when the world is on fire, with a message that is unifying and bringing people together. We have never needed it more than we need it now. So on behalf of us here, the Legacy Art Centre, Cypher Jules, the whole family, and extended Wu-Tang family out here, we love you and appreciate you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Dawn King. Thank you, inviting me. Open time that we share together was valuable time for you in your life and not a waste of time. I do have one slogan I always say: if you're not having a good time, you are wasting your time. Enjoy yourself, enjoy life. Peace and blessings. Thank you.
We're just going to take a posse shot of all.
Muchas gracias.
So everybody stick right here, and we're going to have all the cameramen come, and he's going to do it like he's in a concert. And turn around, and we're going to take a picture with everybody.
3, 2, 1. Okay, you got yours? Video or camera, boss? Video. Okay.
Can y'all see the crowd?
Yeah.
Y'all see the crowd?
Do this. Hold on, do this. Start the camera here. Right? On the count of 3, we say Wu-Tang forever. And as you pull back, I'm gonna step in. So pan across the whole crowd so you can finish it.
Put your W's up. Everybody put your W's up.
On the count of 3, you're going to say Wu-Tang forever. He's going to pan across over y'all and pull out, and I'll be in the center suite. 1, 2, 3. Wu-Tang!
Now you know.
We keep well worth it. Yeah, it's a good night. If people went there, they missed it.